Thank you for clicking on the video, and here on Mimic, I'm presenting another game book. This is the first of the Arkham Horror Investigators Gamebook series. The title is The Darkness Over Arkham, and it is authored by Jonathan Green, who has done multiple game books, including ones for fighting fantasy, such as this one here, as well as other modern game books, such as this one here for the Marvel series. So this is his newest one, and it came out in May of 2024, and we are going to go over the details of this book today. I'm going to talk to you about my impressions about the book first, and then I'll get into more of the plot, and I'll warn you when there are going to be spoilers when I hit a certain point. I'm going to say right off the bat, this is probably one of the better modern game books out there, certainly by Jonathan Green. It is more difficult than Moon Knight, which was rather simplistic, and it's a little bit more engaging than the old fighting fantasy style game books. So one cool thing about this, which I thought would be a negative, is there are set characters in the beginning that you pick. Usually for these game books, you roll stats to create a character, but that's not the case here. As you know, with the Arkham Horror board game, you have different investigators, and there are many, many different ones given all the expansions you have. So here is one profile you could use for Agnes Baker, and we have 5 different stats for each character. We have willpower, intellect, combat, health, and of course, dealing with Cthulhu, you have to have a sanity stat point as well. So each character also has a different starting ability, a major ability, other minor skills, a major weakness, and other weaknesses that they may have that might drive them crazy. So this is Agnes, the waitress, and there are 2 other characters in this book that you could play. There is the boxer, who has a high combat, and Rex Murphy, the reporter, who has a very high health and sanity here. So the one I played was Agnes Baker, the waitress, and part of the reason why I picked this character was her high willpower. If there was one with higher intellect, I probably would have used that one, but willpower, I wanted to see if I could puzzle my way through this, see if I could go through the game without any serious combat. So in this game, there are other stats actually not listed here. One is a stat for clues. So each time you get a clue, you get a +1. Every time you get a resource, you get a +1. There also is a doom stat as well. So each time something happens, the doom counter can increase as well. So you can assume what that will mean for the outcome of the book. Now, there is also a lot of inventory in this book, and you will pick up certain items that will give you resources or clues that will help you navigate through other puzzles and whatnot. So it is a difficult book, as I mentioned. It's not very easy and straightforward. And I'll go over some of the solutions a little bit later as we talk about the story. Before I get more in-depth into the story, there is no illustrator to be noted, as there is really no artwork in this book aside from the cover here and for the portraits of the investigators. There are a smattering of little like silhouettes of daggers or whatnot, such as here. It's not too impressive. There's certainly no full page artwork in this book at all. This book just came out, and if you want to purchase this after listening to this review, you could buy it anywhere, including Amazon right now, if you choose to do so. And we are going to cover this for our spooky month of October. For the spooky month of October, our free giveaway this month is for a sealed copy of The Hunger, a board game by Richard Garfield, where you play a vampire. How cool is that? So I'll put a link down below on how you could win this prize. If you're watching this from the future, sorry you missed out, you could click our main channel page to see our current giveaway, as we have one going on every month. This is not the first game book we presented on the channel. It certainly won't be the last. So if you love these old-fashioned game books, find it intriguing, hopefully consider hitting that like and subscribe. It's certainly free to you and helps us out on the channel. So thanks for listening to that. And now let's dive more into the story here. Let's flip it to the back. And here we could see the setting. See Arkham in a different light as your choices change the story in all new investigator game books. One thing I actually didn't realize is Arkham Horror actually has multiple other books that they have published. Look at these. It's almost like Dragonlance. There's a whole bunch of novels involving different characters or missions, I suppose, in the game, in the board game. And these are all copyrighted by Fantasy Flight Games. So quite a number of them. I had no idea these existed, but I'm happy to have found this game book. Now, when a renowned professor is found dead, his body melted, it's up to the investigators of Arkham to discover what occult horrors were behind his fate. Pick your path, investigator, and collect allies along the way to hunt down his killer before they strike again. However, Arkham is full of mysteries, with many wishing to keep the truth buried and who are hungry to usher in a new era full of death and darkness to devour the world you know it. Can you stop them before it's too late? Take on the mantle of investigator to keep the ancient ones at bay in the extraordinary world of Arkham Horror. And you can see there is the logo of Fantasy Flight Games, and the publisher is Arkham, and who is also actually the publisher of the Moon Knight and the other Marvel game books. It should be noted that this book size is actually larger than the Marvel one. Okay, this is more of a standard paperback size. This is a little bit bigger. These are both 300 passages. Okay, the old Fighting Fantasy game books, these were 400 passages. So it's a little bit smaller, but it is pretty meaty, I think. This game is divided into 3 acts. So there are going to be heavy spoilers ahead. So if you don't want to find out what happens in the book, you might want to switch to something else. So let me just show you my character sheet that I created. And this is for the Agnes character. And over time, of course, your stats can increase or decrease, and you pick up other skills along the way. And so here is my completed inventory and stats that I had, just to give you a sense of inventory and things that you might pick up. So the first act of this game book involves you at a diner, and a couple's fighting, and they drop a notebook, and you pick up this notebook and you have to decide what you're going to do with it. Do you investigate this notebook or find the people that dropped it? Do you chase after the guy or the lady that was arguing back and forth, and they both split off in different directions? As you know, with most of these game books, there's only one true path to get the best ending, especially with the more modern game books. And that is the same thing that happens in this book as well. So in the first act, you're going to reach a point where you will be in jail. And the only way to escape this jail is a passage that you sort of decipher from the notebook. And let me just show you that here. It's towards the back. Okay, so right here on this page, it is a puzzle. And when I first saw this, it was quite daunting. But the more I thought about it, I figured out the solution. If you do not want to know the solution to this, once again, I suggest maybe just watch a different video, but I'm gonna give you the answer to this. And basically, this ruin is the same text as right here, but each letter has been switched to an archaic symbol, and you use those symbols to match and then decipher this new passage here. Some of the letters are not in here, but you can infer what it is based on filling in the blanks. And so the actual text of this, I have it on my phone, translating it, and it reads, "When the moon in darkness dies, then a new God shall arise. One from 3 shall claim the prize, one called from the burning pit, one that seeks the veil to split, the last, the child, its egg forfeit." And so to escape the jail, it's sort of interesting. They ask you to decipher this and take the 4 numbers in this passage and add them together and turn to that page. So you take 1, 1, 1, and the word 3 here added together, and of course you get 6, right? So you turn to passageway 6, and here is a continuation of the story. So that is the first arc, and that is sort of a stumbling block that you may hit. The second arc of the story, you investigate this one house, and it has different puzzles in there. There is some combat to be had. My character, once again, has a very weak combat ability, only 2. So there are ways to bypass that. But in the second arc, you have to get a item. If you don't have this item, you cannot progress more into the story. And that is this ceremonial knife. And you find this knife in this map room, and it has multiple globes in there, and you have to spin the globes in a certain order to unlock a secret door. It's sort of intriguing because it's not a simple passageway. It's like, oh, do you spin A, B, and C, or do you spin C, B, and A? It doesn't do that. It says, which globe do you want to spin first? And almost like a maze, it sends you off on all these tangent passageways. So you might hear some clicks or no clicks, and but over some time and trial and error, you could figure it out. But I like how they did it that way, rather than have a simple line that you could pick and just go to that answer. You actually had to go through a certain pathway and use some logic. So it's almost like a mini maze. So that's pretty well done. So once you get this ceremonial knife, you unlock the third arc of the story, where you actually go back to that house, and there is going to be a ceremony of all these factions trying to raise their elder god or old ones to prominence. So there are 3 factions, and actually there's a secret 4th one. Either way, it's up to you to disrupt their ceremonies and stop the evil from happening. And that is also interesting when you hit that point here, and I save this page. You have a couple of options, and you could flee from this place. You could attack one individual. You could focus on one faction and a different faction. You can try and engineer the mutual destruction of the others, or you could do an ultimate sacrifice. You could kill yourself, actually, and see if that will stop what is happening. So I'll leave you to discover what happens. Certainly there are bad endings and there are good endings, and of course one is the best ending. So it is difficult, but it's not the hardest game book in the world. There are certainly others that he has written that are quite difficult. Beowulf, we reviewed recently. It's sort of an easy book, but to get that ending where you have Beowulf survive, that's very, very difficult to find that ending. So I would put that difficulty not as high as that, or as Blood Bones, which was also very difficult, where you had to find a singular path to go through and survive that whole game book. It's not that as hard as that one, but on a scale of 0 to 10, I'd probably put this at a 7.5. When you read this book, I know everyone's different. Some people love a challenge. Some people rather just have something more enjoyable. So I'll let you use that information to your benefit. For me personally, since I grew up in the 80s and I grew up with a whole bunch of game books, and these were just a great way to escape the world before more popular and more realistic video games existed. And I'm glad to see the artwork and game form is still alive. And I think Jonathan Green has a hit here with this book. And I certainly hope that there are other books in this series that come out. The ending that I reached was a good one, and that was using Agnes's skill of sorcery, which she's the only one character that has that. Obviously, there will probably be other endings that I have missed, but I probably could dive into those when I use the other characters. So I do like that aspect of having multiple investigators that you can use. I thought it was going to be a negative. You can't create your own character, but I think that lends to better storytelling, as they know exactly the strength and weakness of that character, and they can sort of tailor the prose that way. I should also have pointed out that in the beginning, there is also a little backstory for each character, how they all arrived to the diner. So that makes it all personalized as well. In summary, this book is a big thumbs up for me. I think this is a very intriguing book series, and the fact that you can use different investigators to unlock different plot points, I think that is a cool plus, not a negative. Hopefully this book does well and they come out with a second book in the series. I'm very excited to see this in print and glad to have read it. Hopefully you found this review helpful. As always, thank you for watching, everyone, and keep on adventuring out there.